evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome into Wednesday Workshop Live with Build a Quilt. I'm Diana. Let me get rid of this banner here. There we go. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves in the comments so I know who's here and everybody can say hello and I can say hello to you. It is great to be with you all tonight. This is our first week in February already. I have a feeling we're going to be saying like it's our first week in June, like in the snap of a finger, I think. So it's time just goes by so quickly. But this is Wednesday Workshop Live. And this week is a special week because we're starting our brand new Quilt Lab season tonight. And this year, Quilt Lab is all about the mini quilt. Quilts technically 24 inches and under, but this month, you get two versions that you can do, and they're 25 and a half and 27 and a half. I had to make them just slightly bigger. It just turned out better that way. Trust me. It's going to be a wee bit bigger than the 24 inches, but normally they'll be 24 inches square or smaller. Perfect for a tabletop, perfect for that small little wall space that you have in your home, or great like to do them throughout the year and keep them set aside and give them all as a gift, maybe to someone at the holiday season at the end of the year. I know I'm already thinking about the holidays. Is that crazy or what? Let's see if we have anybody checking in. Hello, Sue from Indiana. Hey, Sue, how is it going over there with you guys? We are in the middle or just at the beginning of a really bad ice storm right now. And I should let you all know right up front that if I lose connection tonight, there is a chance I won't be able to get back on. We have been forewarned by the cable people and the electric people that during this ice storm tonight, we could possibly lose power and service. So I apologize. I didn't want to cancel tonight in case we don't, right? Because it might not be bad during this hour. The badness may be coming later. You just never know. So I didn't want to cancel tonight, but I did want to let you guys know that up front, that there is a tiny chance that something might glitch in and it goes away. If that's the case, I will do an addendum video or something tomorrow, or as soon as we would get the power back, I guess. But just wanted to put that out there. So Sue, how are you? I don't know what part of Indiana you're in, but if you're like, we're only 16 miles from Indiana where I live. And I know it's going in that direction. So if you are going to get hit or you're due to get hit by this stuff, I hope you are well and stay safe, because Dave's already been out and like covered the whole driveway in salt and stuff so that we can get out of the garage in the morning. So he says ice storms are so bad. Yeah, you're having thunderstorms. See, I noticed there was a big green blob of rain over in that area and a little south of us too. I'm sorry to hear that. I'd rather have storms right now. I mean, this should just be snow. What are we doing having thunderstorms and ice in February? But I hate ice. I love snow. Give me snow all day long. I just hate the ice because it's so dangerous out there. But we're as prepared as we can be. We've got logs for the fireplace if we lose power and stuff like that. And we have a small generator that will run some lights and stuff, like a little light, or allow us to keep our phones charged or something, but that's about it. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed that it just kind of slides on by us, just like ice should slide. It just slides on by us because I don't like ice at all. And to the rest of you all, I hope you're all doing great wherever you are in the country or in the world. You are in the close to Louisville. Oh, yes. I know that part of, I know Indiana pretty well. I've spent some time there, and our cousin, actually, not our cousin, what am I saying? Our nephew, he and his wife and family lived in Louisville for a while because he was, I think it was when he was in his residency. He is a pathologist now, but when he was in his residency, he and his family lived in Louisville for a while because he was at one of their hospitals. And so, I hope you all are staying well. Hello, Ruth from snowy Lake Stevens. Oh my goodness, you guys are getting snow. I'm jealous. We're getting ice, Ruth. But oh, I bet it's going to be lovely there to see the snow. I miss Washington State a lot. It's so beautiful out there. Just, we always had the ocean on one side and the mountains on the other. So Dave and I were both equally happy because he's more of a mountain person. I'm more of an ocean person, and we could do both. It was so nice out there. I loved it. But I hope you're staying safe and warm, Ruth, and it's so good to have you with us tonight. All righty. So let me get rid of some banners. Let's get rid of that one. There we go. So this week we're going to be starting our first mini quilt for Quilt Lab. You may purchase your pattern singly over at the website. I'll tell you about that later. Or if you're a Quilt Lab subscriber, you will notice that you got an email today. It was a little different than the emails that we did in Quilt Lab last year, but that's how you'll receive your monthly free download information like that. Okay. So it's easier for me to do that. I don't have to transport in all the email addresses into a regular email server. I can just do it straight from the website because you guys are already subscribed over there. It's easier and it looks a little nicer too, right? So that went out today as well. Now, I will tell you that the mini quilt that we're going to be doing it over the next 4 weeks during Wednesday night workshop. So we'll be walking through that whole idea. There are 2 versions. We'll go over all that here in just a little bit. But if you are a Quilt Lab subscriber, at the last week, you will get your free finished quilting pattern because that's one of your bonuses for the subscription this year is you get a finished quilting pattern for it, but you get it at the end of the month. And it's only available for the Quilt Lab subscribers. But we are going to talk about finished quilting on that last week as well, so that everybody will kind of know the idea around how it would look to finish it in different ways and all. Okay, so I just thought I'd bring that up. But first, let's get started with kind of our meme. Oh, Ruth hates snow. I'm so sorry, Ruth. You can send it my way though, because I love it. All righty. So, every week, guys, we have or ladies, I should say, ladies and gentlemen, we should have, we usually have a meme, right? Or a comic or funny. I like to call them funnies. But this week, we don't really have a meme in the typical sense that I normally show them to you guys. There was something that I found that I thought was super duper interesting. So let me know in the comments if you've either read the book Wicked, seen the stage musical live, or have seen the new movie version. Okay, so not the Wizard of Oz, Wicked. Let me know in the comments, because if you have seen the new film, you will have noticed how spectacular, beyond spectacular, the costumes are. Now, in another part of my life in the theater, occasionally I will design the costumes, right? I love doing that. I don't do it as much anymore, but boy, I loved doing it. And so I'm always looking at costumes in movies, especially movies that are fantasy and stuff. How elaborate did they make them? What did they do? Or on television shows and stuff like Game of Thrones. I was always like trying to pick out the different things they did in those costumes and all, because Dave liked that show. So I watched it with him. And so, while he was into the show, I was like looking at the costumes. So I really have been looking into the costumes for Wicked because they're spectacular, truly, truly spectacular. And I noticed that some of the men, I think they're the Winkies or the Munchkins, don't remember which, have these vests on under their big coats. And they looked like they could be patchwork. Now, patchwork in clothing was something really popular in the 60s and the 70s. I made my own patchwork stuff a lot. I made a patchwork coat. I made like a special patchwork trim for my jeans. patchwork blouses, skirts. We did it all back then, right? And if you're from that era, you guys remember that as well. But big name designers have taken patchwork and added it into their collections over the year. One designer that you'll know, probably Ralph Lauren, has really done some spectacular patchwork in their garments, in their clothing lines. But I like to see it like when it's done in costuming. And so the gentleman who did the costumes for Wicked, he's truly an amazing designer. He's done a lot of designing for big name shows and television shows and movies. And I should have written some down. I thought they would just come to me, and now they're not coming to me. I'm bad about that. But his stuff is incredible. And he did the stuff for Wicked. And I want to bring this in now and show it to you. This is the vest. The designer's name is Paul Tazwell. He's incredibly talented man. And I found these two pictures of the vests that he designed for these costumes, for some of these costumes. And I wanted us to look at them because I thought, how cool to see patchwork in a completely different way, right? We don't see it in garments so much anymore, but what a great way to see it. So if you see the picture that is up here in the top left corner, as you look at the picture, you'll see that the vest itself, they just created a muslin vest. Muslin is so great to use as a base fabric for pieces like this. And so he created the muslin vest, and then he started like with this rosette type pinwheel of patchwork. Now, isn't that incredible? But look at the bottom picture, what he does with it next. He takes that wheel and he literally lines up the patchwork so that it looks like it's spiraling out from that center throughout that entire piece. Isn't that just incredible? I love this so much. I got very excited when I saw it, and I thought, you know, instead of a regular meme tonight, I want to show this to you guys because it inspires me. You might not want to go out and make a vest like this, but what about this idea in a quilt, right? In a flatbed quilt. I think it would be beautiful. Now, this is something that you would definitely want to probably do by hand, of course. This is a lot of hand-pieced work. They didn't do this with an embroidery machine, and they didn't do it on a machine. This was hand-pieced. After they made that base, all of that was probably hand-placed, hand-seamed, all of that. But my goodness, it's incredible. What do you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. But look up this designer. The gentleman's name is Paul Tazwell, Tazewell. And I am just crazy about the work he's done. And then when I looked at his website and saw the new film version of West Side Story, he did that. That's one I remember. Oh, there were some other ones too. There's some other really amazing ones that he's done. If you look at his website, you'll see like the films and the plays and the movies and things and the musicals and stuff that he's done, which I didn't know. And then, I know the other thing that he's done. Speaking of Seattle, Seattle's Pacific Northwest Ballet has just begun a new run of the ballet, The Sleeping Beauty. It's a beautiful ballet. It's one of my absolute favorite ballets. And this gentleman that did this work designed a whole new costume. Usually when a company redoes something, they keep those same costumes and they wear them for several seasons or several times that they do this. And then occasionally, if they want to refresh everything, they'll refresh everything by going and like doing a new costume designer or a new set designer. Well, Paul Tazwell just did the costumes for the Sleeping Beauty at the Pacific Northwest Ballet in Seattle. And he added one of the indigenous tribes out there. He added the way they do like their art and stuff, that the look that they give it, that is kind of how he created these costumes. They are spectacular. If you can go probably to the Pacific Northwest Ballet, you can see some of it. If you have Instagram, check out the Pacific Northwest Ballet on Instagram. I've been following a bunch of little segments that they've done over the last month or so on how they created these costumes. They just, I wept one night after seeing some of them. They are so intensely beautiful. And then I knew that he had done Wicked, and so I went and looked him up, and he's done a lot of stuff. Very, very, very talented man. Anyway, that is our meme for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that. I thought that would be a little more inspiring and a little more fun to see than just a cartoon this week, to see how our beloved patchwork that we all love to do can be done in different ways. And I want you to think about that, because that idea of garments and patchwork is coming up later in tonight's show. And so be thinking about what you may have known or seen about patchwork garments in your history. All righty. So that was our meme. And I've got my little checklist here. I'm checking everything off. I'm sorry if I'm a little hoarse. I seem to be losing my voice. And my eyes are real. So you all know that I've been taking some special drops for my eyes, and my doctor has curtailed my computer time because of that, because my eyes have been really sore, dry, and itchy for about a month now. Got a couple more weeks on this medication, and on restriction for how often I can be online and doing my digitizing. All that fine-tuned work has been really hard on my eyes. So if I blink a lot tonight, it's because my eyes right now are really dry, and all I need to do some new drops when we're done tonight. But that's why my eyes might seem weird tonight, because they're sore as can be. So let's talk about our brand new quilt. Well, it is a kind of a mini quilt along, our mini quilt for February. The first one for our Quilt Lab year, because Quilt Lab starts in February and ends in January. Let me bring up this picture right here. So this is this month's, February's, mini quilt, and you can do it in two versions. See the little one in the salmony pink color? I chose that color because February being the month of Valentine's Day, I thought maybe this would inspire you to do something for the month of February that you want to put out on a table or hang on a wall. That doesn't have necessarily something to do with hearts, right? I mean, Valentine's Day is typically always about the hearts, but I thought this would be a nice color scheme, but different. And then, of course, the bigger one, this one here is the 25-inch by 25-inch. This one here is 27.5 by 27.5. And this is the 4-block folded star mini quilt with sashing. And I love it because look what happens with the sashing. Without the sashing, you just have the 4 blocks together. And I chose to do it this month in colors. Pick one color family and work around from the lightest to the darkest variation. I did that here as well. And then I added in the sashing. And the sashing is just this little piece right here with the square and the flippy cornered rectangle. I'm going to show you my sample block here in a moment. But when you add the sashing in, that's what makes it just a couple inches beyond that 24-inch mark. But look what happens. You end up getting all of these little 8-pointed stars throughout your entire piece. I just loved it. You could take this and like do several 4 patches and even make bigger quilt if you want, but it's meant to be that 27.5 by 27.5 mini quilt, or the 25-inch mini quilt. So just a little bit bigger than I thought they would be, but still completely doable. So are you guys ready to see the block itself? I love this block because it's one of those blocks, one, that gives you that extra pattern once it comes together, that extra little 8-pointed star. And when you look at it from a distance, this looks like a folded paper star. Like you've taken your paper and you folded it in different ways to come up with this look. So let's take a look. Here is my block. This is the folded star. This is the main block of this month's mini quilt, okay? And so there, with one block, you get the one little 8-pointed star in the center. And as you put these blocks together, the 4 of them, you will end up with just 4 of these. But if you add the sashing, then you add a whole bunch more of them in there. In fact, let's take a look at our piece again. You end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You end up with 9 of these little 8-pointed stars in your block. But let's look at this from a distance. There, that makes it come in a little bit better. But do you see how this looks like there's a square with the star in the middle and it's recessed? That's because of these half square triangles and how this flippy corner isn't a full, it doesn't have the full white on each side. So it looks recessed, so like that little extra star is behind it. Or it could even look like a crossroads a little bit behind it. But I love how this turned out, and it's super simple. Let's hang this on our board over here, and then we'll talk about how it gets made a little bit more. Let me grab my, oops. There we go. All right, so this block is super simple. Now, in your pattern, you're going to have your instructions, you're going to have your cut sheet and your fabric sheet, and you're going to have a layout for the 4-block mini quilt and for the mini quilt, 4-block mini quilt with sashing. And you'll have a whole list that will tell you what extra amounts you need to cut for that sashing in there. And then there is a video that is attached to it. And the video actually shows you how to complete one block. We're going to talk in a couple of weeks about the sashing here live at workshop. So you'll have all the information for making your pieces, and we're going to talk about creating them and putting them together each week as we go. So this is technically my lightest fabric. I want to show you my fabrics that I chose for this. So, you know, we've been using the color cube, right? And we're going to do, ooh, there we go. We're going to do that again tonight for our new simplest block, our easiest quilt ever block that we're making. That's the first 2 weeks. I have my 3rd week one, which we'll talk about and go over in a little bit. It turned out this color card that you guys chose turned out to be a really cool combination for a quilt block. I think I said this last week. I don't think I would have normally chosen those colors for a quilt, but I really like how this turned out. It's, to me, it's got kind of a very modern vibe to those colors. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So over the holidays, I picked up, set those aside, these 2 fabrics. And the reason I got this one, isn't that a beautiful deep color? I love it. The reason I picked it out is because I saw this, and that color in the cone of that flower is that color. And I thought, aren't those pretty together? So for your folded star, you need a background color. Now I chose that candlelit color, and I will probably do that a lot because I think you guys can see it better. You can see the sample better when I do that. However, if you want to, a nice light gray, any lighter color, lighter than your lightest block, will work as a good background color. So if you want to do something other than that candlelight, or if you want to do a really bright white, you can do that. If you want to do more of an ecru color, you can do that too. Just depends on the colors you choose, the color family. So in our picture here, you see that I chose 2 color families. I chose that little salmon color family for the 4-block. And I chose, of course, my favorite, kind of that haint blue kind of color family for the one with the sashing. And so what you need to do for your fabric this week is go through your stash, go to your local shop, whichever you prefer, and you need a light, the next lightest, like not quite a medium, but the next lightest, then a medium and a dark. So you'll need four colors to do this. All right, let me come back out now. So this is my lightest, and of course I have it with my candlelit color. All right, you can see that there. But then I needed to pick like another, what I would consider a light, because this really could be considered a medium fabric, a medium color. But for this piece that I'm making, it's going to be my lightest. So I went through my stash and I found this solid. And I think, no, it's not a silky solid and it's not a Tula pink. It's just a solid. It's not even a Kona. So I'm not sure who makes it, but I found this color. It is obviously not as dark as that one, but when you hold it up with that, it certainly goes. So this will be my first. Next week, my block will be this color with my candlelit color. And then in week 3, so I'm looking and I thought, you know, I don't want to do only these kind of berry colors with this, because the berry color in here is only in that little center cone. So I thought, let me start looking for greens. And in here, you can see on my fabric, see the background is the lighter green, but look at the stem and the leaves. Definitely those are the darker color, right? So, or kind of a medium color green. So I went back to my stash and I didn't want something that was only solid, right? I wanted something that was going to give it a texture look to it. So when I want a solid that's got texture to it, I look for Moda Grunge or those teeny tiny little grid patterns, or something that looks solid from a distance, even if it's a tiny print. But I found this. This is from a fat quarter pack that I have. Who's it by? Can't think off the top of my head. But that green, when you put it with that and you put it with that, works really well together. And so I've got one solid so far, but this is not really solid. So it's going to give that third block, which would be your medium color. This is your medium color. It will give it that texture. You won't look at it and go, oh, competing prints. You'll go, oh, kind of a texture solid kind of a thing. That's what that's going to do for me. And then last but not least, of course, I wanted to use this beautiful fabric that I got with this one. This is going to be my fourth block, and it's going to be the darkest one. Now, look at it up close. It is not a solid either. In fact, this one is, I've still got my piece on here, I can tell you. This is called Suede by P&B Textiles. PB Basics. It's called Suede. And if you look at it closely, oops, let's get that little IP off of there. There we go. Look at it. It looks like it's been brushed, like a suede. So that's what it is. So with these fabrics, I'm going to have a lot of dimension and a lot of movement and texture in my pieces, because out of all of them, except for my background, I only have one true solid in there. And so that's how I chose my colors. I chose them because I loved this and I really wanted to use it. And I didn't know when I started, would this be my lightest? Would this be my medium? I didn't know. I started pulling things. At one point, I had 30 different swatches of fabric laying out, and I was mixing and matching. In fact, at one point, it wasn't even these colors, guys. Is that how it works for you guys? Do you start looking for things and you get things laying around and you go, oh, I got to start putting things away because now it's getting too confusing, right? So, but if you pick a fabric you love that is a pattern, then you're very likely to be able to pull all of your other colors for the other 3 blocks from that pattern. Just kind of like we've been doing with the colors cards that we've been using. This pattern here had all of these colors in it. This pattern here has all of these colors in it. So that can be really helpful. That gives you a really good base to work off when you're picking those other fabrics. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. So for this week, if you can get your fabrics chosen and your first block made, you'll be in good shape. Next week, I want to show you my 2 more blocks. I want to show you these 2 colors next week, and we'll talk about a little bit more. The 3rd week of February, I'll show you this finished block, and we'll start to talk about sashing that week as well. And we'll talk about how you go about putting that all together and stuff. But that is the mini quilt for February 2025 for Quilt Lab, the mini quilt Folded Stars. I hope you guys like it. You guys are really quiet over in the comments tonight. I hope you guys like this. But again, if you're a Quilt Lab subscriber, that has already gone out to you. In fact, let me show you. For those who are wondering what Quilt Lab is, hang on, there we go. This is the website. This is the Build a Quilt website. And the first thing you see on here is the Quilt Lab subscription for 2025. The price did not go up this year. Now, I will tell you that the individual price for the individual patterns did go up this year because you're getting a lot more in them and they're a bigger project. But for the actual Quilt Lab subscription, they did not go up. You get your monthly quilt project. You get 2 exclusive block designs in 2 sizes per year. So you get four times a year, you'll get a block that's exclusive to Quilt Lab, and it will be in 2 sizes for you. And probably one of those sizes will be that 10 by 10 block that we tend to love so much around here, right? And mid-year, we're going to be doing a quilt along for Quilt Lab subscribers only. And stay tuned because I have something very special to announce about that quilt along coming probably in just the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And then you get exclusive access to the member only area at the website. You get extra free patterns and downloads throughout the year. And you get VIP access to customer service, which means basically 24/7, 365. You guys can, if you send in your messages to me, I'll get to them ASAP and get back to you. And then you get the free end of year quilt along pattern. Now, this year, the end of year quilt along is not going to be from the mini quilts, right? Last year's quilt along pattern was made up of the blocks that we did, but this year it's going to be a whole new quilt. You guys will get that pattern for the quilt along free with your subscription. So you can check that out over at the website as well. Okay. All righty. There seemed like there was something else, a little bit of something else I wanted to say about that. Oh, yes. If you were a Quilt Lab subscriber in 2024 and you have not resubscribed for 2025, at least not at this point, maybe you're going to do it and you haven't done it so far. But for now, you have been removed from the member only area. That member only area you had access to during your subscription. Okay. So right now over in the Quilt Lab only member area, there's like one thing in there that is a download. Not to worry. I've got some things coming in there. It's the beginning of the year, so we have to start filling that stuff up with all your extras and your bonuses and all. So that stuff is coming, but you should be able to get to that without a problem just by going at the top of the page here when you log in. Whoops. Let me see. I should be logged in already, but fiddlesticks. I just knocked myself out. But if you go up there to your little icon and you hit the drop down box, you'll see Quilt Lab. Click on that, and that's your members only area. Okay. And I do believe I still have a welcome video in there from last year. I probably need to redo that too. And there is going to be a new Quilt Lab subscriber letter going out later this week. Alrighty. And for the 2024 Quilt Lab subscribers, You guys are getting your last free exclusive pattern on Saturday of this week. And I've already explained that to you in an email, that because of my eye thing going on, I've had to take it a little slower. So that pattern will be sent directly to you from me in an email. All right. Okay. All right, you guys. Do you want to see my block from last week's easiest quilt along ever? So let's take a look. So far, this was week 1. This was the color card. Now, I chose this one to get us started, and that ended up being my block. And look, the colors in that card, wow. They just, I mean, it just looks like they were meant to be, right? And they are. They worked out perfectly. This was last week's. This was the one that you guys picked the first time you picked. This was last week's. And I'm liking the fact that we're picking colors that you wouldn't normally, because this go together, because this is going to be a beautiful scrappy throw quilt when we're done. Now, this last week, you chose this card. It was card 344. You chose this card. And I thought it really has that modern look to it, doesn't it? Because it's based on that furniture. So all these colors across the bottom are pulled from that photograph. And I really thought that this was a very unique color scheme. This is not something that I would pick on my own. I just wouldn't think of it. Not that I don't like it. I wouldn't have thought of it, but I love it. And I think it's a really unique color scheme for Valentine's Day, because you've got a red and a pink, and this gray, this beige, and what's this color that they call clay, this one down here, are just, they're perfect neutrals to go with those reds and pinks. So do you want to see my block? This is my block from this week. Okay, so I did not have the lightest beige, but I did choose a gray, a red. This, again, see, I chose a fabric with a pattern that had some of those colors in it. So this has the lighter pink and the red in it. And of course, it's got a little bit of that aqua in there too, because you guys know how much I love it. So everything I have has aqua in it. And then this one is kind of that clay color. That's how those came together. And these were just fabrics I had in the stash. And again, I had to go and really start pulling things, because when I first looked at that color card, I thought, I don't know what I've got that would really go with that. Now, there is a designer, Alexander Henry. If you know that designer line and you know the fabric line, the Ghoulies, I love them. I truly love the artwork on them. It's very unique. If you have some of those fabrics, I bet those fabrics you could pull for these colors, because I know that line uses some of those colors. And I do have some Alexander Henry, and I was going to pull them. And then I was just on a roll and just started pulling fabrics. And this is what I came up with. But I liked how it turned out. I really liked how it turned out. Let me put it up here. So tonight, when we're done, I'll do a photograph with this block and the picture. And then down here at the bottom, I'll have the new color card that we're going to choose in a moment. Let's see if we've got any comments over here. Sue says she really likes the mini quilt and that my colors look great. Oh, thank you, Sue. I appreciate that. I'm glad you like the mini quilt. I love this block. This is like one of my new favorite blocks. I love blocks that will give you secondary blocks. And when you add the sashing, you get all those little 8-pointed stars. And what's more traditional patchwork than an 8-pointed star? Am I right? So I love that you get that with the sashing in it. And then I love how this gives you almost that 3D folded paper look. I really enjoyed making this one. I'm so glad you like it, Sue. Thank you so much. All righty. So this week, last week, I had you start making your 2-piece white blocks or background color blocks for your sashing for this easiest quilt ever. And keep making those, okay? And I'm going to try and sit down and actually count up how many sets of those we'll need to make in this next week or so. But we've got a little while. This is going to take us a couple of months before we're even close to being done. So just keep making these for your background. Sue says she loves stars. I do too. I mean, there are two blocks that I think are the blocks, the reason why people start to quilt. The log cabin block and the 8-pointed star, just the basic 8-pointed star. Those are like the two blocks that people see and go, I think I could do that. Oh, I'd like to try that. And then they're off to the races with their quilting. So I agree with you, Sue. I love stars as well. All right, but this week, y'all listen to me. We are going to pick not one color card. We're going to pick two, because I want us to do two blocks this week. Again, they're just your 4 squares. Easiest quilt ever. And boy, do I mean it. The easiest quilt along ever. You'll never do anything easier, but it's a great way to use up stash. It's a stash fabric. It's a great way to get started if you're new to quilting. And it's a great way, if you're an experienced quilter, to get a nice little everyday throw quilt project done. I love doing projects like this. They are super simple, but the nice thing about them is while I'm doing other things, I just cut myself some fabric and do my squares and then sew them together, and that block is done. Each one of these blocks go quick as you please. And so I get them done. I usually put stacks of them away when I do stuff like that. And then eventually by mid-year, I put them together into a throw quilt. So I thought us doing something easy like that would be a good way to start the year. All right, so I have 4 cards for us tonight, and we're going to pick 2 of them. All right, so let's start going through them. Number 76. So I've been picking from box number 2. Tonight I picked from the Sarah Renee Clark Color Cube box 1. Okay, this one I call the Summer of 69. I'm sorry, if you're my age, you know what that means, and you know that the Volkswagen Bug van was the ultimate vehicle for all of us. Yelp. Sue, why are you yelping? You let me know if you're okay, dear. So I loved when I pick these cards completely at random. I put my hand in, I pull out a bunch of them, and I kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I loved this one. So let's talk about the colors. This top, whoops, over here, top blue one is called Bondi Blue. It's a very pool blue to me. The next one down is called Blue Gray. This one, if it looks kind of like a white, but when you look at it close, it's very pink. It's called Cream Pink. It is a very light sun-drenched pink. That's what these colors remind me. Sun-drenched colors. And then this one is called Amber. And the bottom one is simply orange. I absolutely loved those colors when I saw it. I love the picture. Like I would frame just that little card and put it next to my desk because it just reminds me of fun summer. So that's number 76. I'll show you all these again and then in a little bit. And then artwork. That's what I call this one. The artwork. Isn't that? And we talked about ballet earlier too. I just realized that's a ballet. Very cool. So up at the, oh, these go across the bottom. Okay. So this one here is called Eggplant. So if you look at it really closely, it's a very deep browny purple. Okay, it's not brown. It's a brownish purple like an eggplant is, or an aubergine for all of my UK friends who, when I say eggplant, they go, eggplant? It's an aubergine. And I'm like, yeah, it truly is an aubergine. That's that color there, eggplant. The next one right there is called Blood Orange. Have you ever had a blood orange? They're so delicious. And they're really that color. They're more of a blood color than an orange, like a regular navel orange that we would eat. And then this third one is called Light Pink. And if you look, it is darker than the cream pink on that first card. So Light Pink. And then this one is called Kale. That green is called Kale. And then the very last one over here is called Teal. And I would say that's a very dark teal. number 122. Bye, Sue. Have a good evening, dear. Thank you for coming. And then now we have number 119, which we're just going to call the beautiful peacock. I love peacocks. They're so gorgeous. They're cantankerous animals, but they're beautiful. And these are very dark colors, but why not? So clay, dark blue, teal, olive, and hunter green. If you're somebody who likes those kinds of colors, you might want to vote on that particular card. I love those. Those are very dark, but I love them. And with all the brights, you know, having some dark blocks in there will look good too. We're going to have warm blocks and cool blocks and bright blocks and darker blocks all throughout this quilt, depending on what we choose. So that's number 119. And then last but not least, number 78 came up. And this one I just call a field of wheat because that's what that is. So sky blue, ghost white. Ghost white, I think we've had that a color before. And that ghost white is like a super dead white with like one drop of blue in it to kind of give it the softest gray. But that's ghost white. And then mustard, copper, and chestnut. That's a nice color. That's a nice color grouping. So the wheat, number 78. All right, let me show them to you again. Number 76, summer of 69. Number 122, the ballet painting. Number 119, the peacock. And number 78, the field of wheat. So when you vote tonight, give me two numbers, okay? Because we're going to be choosing two cards. So give me two numbers, 76, 122, 119, and 78, and you can start voting right now, okay? I want to try and get those so you can see them. They're not all, the colors pieces aren't all in the same place. There we go. There's those two. That's 78 and 119. And there we go. And there, that's 122 and 76. Okay. So go ahead and vote. Rose says 76 and 122. 70. Oh, so she likes the summer of 69 and the ballet painting. Those are both beautiful. Absolutely. I love those too, Rose. All right. So everybody keep voting for your favorites for next week's block, because next week we're making two. And these are our blocks so far. These are our first three. This citrus one, this blue flowers, and this modern furniture version. Let's see. Ruth says also 76 and 122. So these two are out to a fast lead, but you've got some more time to vote. Let's go ahead and do our question of the week. So earlier we talked about garments, patchwork garments. So my question to you is, have you ever worn or made a patchwork garment? Let us know in the comments. Have you ever made or worn a patchwork garment? If you have made one or worn one, let us know what it was. And if you want to let us know what year it was, that's great too. I told you guys, I'm a 60s, 70s, early 70s girl. I used to make them and wear them all the time. So that was the thing back then when I was young and could do those things, I guess. Jackets, skirts, all kinds of stuff I used to make with patchwork. I would just make big pieces of patchwork fabric and then I'd cut my pattern out. So I probably wasted a lot of patchwork, but I tried to turn my rest of my patchwork into blocks and stuff. My grandmother was all about being very frugal that way. And keep voting for your color cards. 122, 76, 78, and 129 or 119. Let's see what we've got over here in the comments. Ruth says not me, and Rose says not me either. Okay, so I was the only All right, I'll just say this. I have one brother. And I begged my parents for years to have another child, and they kept telling me they couldn't afford it. And then when I was I was 9 when they told me, I was 10 when my brother was born, that they were going to have a baby. I said, "Can you afford it now?" My dad said, "No, we're just tired of you begging." So he's quite a bit younger than I am. So when he was like 8, 9, 10, I was in college. And he used to call me his hippie sister because, I wore the patchwork groovy clothes and the hats and the whole bit. Yeah, I was, as my grandmother would say, I was a piece of work. Alrighty, so do we have any more votes on our color cards? Any more? Anybody else? Are we only getting 2 people to talk tonight? I know we've got a ton of people in the room. You guys are being so quiet tonight. Is everybody tired tonight? I will tell you, I am really tired tonight. I'm very tired tonight. I was almost asleep over dinner. Alrighty, so question of the week. Let me come back to the comments. All right, so we're going to stop the voting, and we are going to go 76 and 122. Ruth and Rose voted for this 76 and 122. These are our 2 color cards for this next week. So when I post the picture with this one, I'll have both of these color cards on there so that you can see the colors. I would love to start getting pictures of your blocks. Alrighty. And it doesn't seem to me like anyone has ever worn any patchwork fabric clothing other than me. So maybe you guys didn't find the stuff I showed you tonight very interesting. I don't know, but I loved it. I just think it's really inspirational to see stuff like that and to see how stuff gets made like that, like how he did that floret and how he matched all that up to make it look like it's spiraling. Blows me away. All right, so these are our 2 colors for this next week. Summer of 69. I love those colors. Love those colors. And the ballet painting. I kind of really love those too. I really do. Very pretty. Alrighty. So those pictures will go up later this evening. Alrighty, everybody. So we're almost done for tonight. Again, if you need to find the website for the block and the mini quilt set that this goes with, next week we'll continue on with the mini quilt along. That is the main block, the folded star. All of that is available over at the website, mybuildaquilt.com. If you think you're going to be interested in doing these with us this year, take a look at that Quilt Lab subscription because you will save a lot and you'll get a lot of extra goodies throughout the year as well. So mybuildaquilt.com. If you need to contact me, please do so at support@sewuncommon.com. And I will get back with you as soon as I possibly can. Usually it's right away, unless it's late at night or something. And then I'll say, I'll answer you in the morning. Because usually by that time, I can't read. My eyes are gone by then. But I try to get back to you right away. And for those of you who join us on Fridays for Quilt and Coffee Chat Live, our ones left in February on the 14th and the 21st. Oh, I just realized next Fridays is Valentine's Day. Okay, so that gives me a little bit of a theme maybe for next week's Quilt and Coffee Chat Live. So we only have them twice a month. So we don't have one this Friday, but we have the one on the 14th and the 21st. Alrighty. So, and that is always at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on those Fridays right here at Build a Quilt. And I can't wait to see you guys. You guys seem to be enjoying those, for which I'm glad. You wanted them. You asked for them, and I'm very happy to do them for us. All right. So let me see. Is there anything else I need to share with you on my list here? I'm just doing a little look. There doesn't seem to be. So thank you all so much for joining me tonight for Wednesday Workshop, our first one for the new Quilt Lab season. I'm so excited to be making this first mini quilt with you guys. I think you're going to love it in the end. It's going to turn out really pretty. You're going to, and I'm kind of proud of myself. I've chosen colors that I wouldn't normally have chosen based on those 2 fabrics. All right, everybody, until next time, remember to go quilt life beautiful, and I'll be over in the comments for just a few seconds when we're done. Bye for now, everybody.